Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amarachi Jennifer. If you're a new subscriber, you're welcome. If you're an old subscriber, thank you so much for coming back for my videos. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this beautiful half butterfly gown. So if it's something you're interested in, please keep on watching and let's get started. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be using just 2 yards of Ankara fabric. You can use more than 2 yards depending on your measurement, if on how deep you want your own butterfly to be. So for me, I'm just going to be using 2 yards. So the full length I am working with for my gown is 37 inches. So I'm going to be adding extra 2 inches for my folding. And that will be making it 39 inches. Okay. So I will mark where my full length stops at the top. Then I will be marking my waistline, though it's not really necessary for this part. So I will also be marking my hip line. Then I won't be marking my armhole line for this part now. So I'll be making that later. So please keep on watching so you understand what I am trying to explain. Okay. So I will go ahead and extend the lines across on the hip line and also on the waistline, though I won't really be needing it. So I'll also extend the line across at the shoulder line, which is where my full length stops. So I'm going to be marking the line across as well so that I can be taking my measurements accurately. So I've gone ahead to mark out the shoulder line, the waistline and the hip line. So the next thing I'm going to measure is how wide I want my butterfly to be. So I'll start from the center fold of my fabric and then I'll measure how deep I want my butterfly to be. For me, I'm just going to be using 18 inches because I don't want it to be too wide. So if you want yours to be too wide, you can just use how wide, you can just measure how wide you want yours to be. After I'm done with that, the next thing I'm going to do is to head over to my hip line. So I'll mark out my hip measurement, which is 38 inches. Then I divide it by 4. I have 9.5. I'll mark it. Then I'll go ahead and add my 1.5 inch sewing allowance. Then I'll extend the line to the hemline of my gown. So the wideness of your butterfly is going to be at your shoulder line, okay? At your shoulder line. So after I was done with that measurement, I went ahead to connect it from the shoulder line to the hip line like a curve. You can see the way I did it, guys, okay? So that would be all for this part. I'll go ahead and cut it out. So after I'm done cutting it out, the next thing I'm going to do is to fold in my fabric again to cut out the back piece. So go ahead and fold your fabric and give it enough space so that it can be able to accommodate your zip allowance. Okay, so I went ahead to fold my fabric and then use the first part, which is the front part that I cut earlier, to place on it to trace out my back piece. Then I added my 1 inch zip allowance. So I'll go ahead and mark it out and extend it to the top. So guys, I'm so sorry I didn't show you the part where I cut the neckline. So my neck width was 3 inches and the depth was 5 inches. That's for the front neckline. Okay, I'm so sorry I didn't show that part. So I went ahead to cut it out to a round shape. Okay, so I'll go ahead and extend the lines at the top of the back where I cut out the neckline, and then I will be extending the neck width to the one I used at the front part, which is 3 inches, and my neck depth for the back is going to be 2 inches. So I'll go ahead and draw it out. After that will be all. So the next I'm going to do is to cut it out. So after I'm done cutting it out, that will be all for the cutting part of this gown. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to start the sewing part. So guys, after cutting, the next thing I'm going to do is to fold the neckline of my gown. So I'm going to be using bias for this. So if you have lining and you want to add lining to yours, you can also go ahead and do that. But for me, I am not using lining for this. I'm going to place my bias to the front side of my gown. I'll sew it first, then I'll fold it into the wrong side. So guys, I'm done folding the neckline of my gown. So this is what it looks like. Just place your bias to the front part of your fabric, then you sew on it and fold it in, and then top stitch on it. I also went ahead to do the same thing for the back piece. So that's all for the folding of the neckline. Okay, so after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to fold the butterfly part of my gown. I'm just going to fold it in by 1/2 inch on a double. Make sure it's on a double. Then you're going to sew it to the end where your butterfly stops. Okay, so I'm done folding it and this is what it looks like. So I also went ahead to do the same thing for the back piece. You're not going to fold it to the end of your fabric, just where your butterfly shape stops. Okay, that's where your folding is going to end. So after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to place my back piece right side facing each other like so. You can see the way I'm doing it. Just make sure you align it smoothly and make it equal. So I'll face it right side facing each other like this. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is I will measure out where I want my zip to stop. So from the neckline, from the neck depth, I'm going to measure out where I want my zip to stop. And then I'll also, from the down part as well, I'm going to measure where I'll be adding a little slit so that I can be able to move with it. So I'm just going to mark it as 7 inches. So I'm going to stitch from where I want my zip to stop to the 7 inches where I measured. Okay, then I'll go ahead and attach my zip. So guys, I'm done with that part. I've also attached my zip, and then I also went ahead to fold the little slit I added at the back. Just fold it in by 1/2 inch on both sides. Okay, so that will be all for that part. The next thing I'm going to do is to place my fabric right side facing each other. Then I'll go ahead and join the shoulder like this. Then I'll take it to my sewing machine now and stitch on it. So guys, I'm done with the stitching on the shoulder and this is what it looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to come down to the hip line. So I'm going to show you how to close it up, but before that I'm going to be holding it down with my pin. So go ahead and pin it down first, then before you start your closing. So guys, I'm done pinning it down, so I'm going to show you now how to close it up. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to measure out my hip. So I'm going to be showing you how to measure my hip. So my hip, I'm going to start from where my butterfly shape stopped. Remember, it stopped at the hip line. So I'm going to be measuring from one end of my fabric to the other end. So I'm going to be measuring what I have there. So I have my hip measurements, and then what I have left is 4 inches after my hip measurement, which is 19.5. So the 4 inches, I'm going to be minusing 2 inches from one side and then 2 inches from the other side. So what I have left in the middle is my hip measurement. Okay, so I've minus 2 inches from one side. So I'll go ahead and mark where my hip measurement stops, which is at 19.5 inches. Okay, so I'll go ahead and extend the lines a little bit downwards. Okay, just look at what I'm doing. Then I'll slant it like a curve from the hip line. Okay, from where my butterfly stopped, I'm going to just slant it a bit to meet my measurement. Okay, I just hope you are understanding what I'm doing. Just look at what I'm doing, okay? You will understand it. So I'll go ahead right now and extend the line to the down part of my gown. So just look at what I'm doing. From the hip line where I measured, I'm going to extend it down to the hemline of my gown, and then I'll go ahead and sew it just the way I marked it. Okay, so guys, I'm done sewing it. I went over to my sewing machine and I stitched it just the way I marked it. So the next I'm going to do is to notch on the slanted side. Just give it a little notch so that it can be smooth, so that it will be smooth when you turn it over to the right side. Okay, so after the notching, I'll then turn it to the right side of my fabric. Okay, so just turn it to the right side of your fabric and then go ahead and smoothen it out. Make sure every part is aligning with each other. So the next I'm going to do is to come over to my shoulder line, and then I'll mark how deep, I'll mark my armhole, how deep I want my armhole to be. So for me, I am marking it at 8 inches. So that is where my armhole is going to be, at 8 inches. Then I'll mark it down. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to measure out my bust measurement. So from one side of my butterfly, I'm going to measure what I have from one side to the other end. So when I measure it, I'm going to mark out what I have after, from where I have my bust measurement. My bust measurement is also 38 inches. So I'm going to be marking it, counting what I have from 19 inches, which is 38 divided by 2. So I'm going to mark what I have. So after the point where I have my 19 inches, what I have left is 16 inches. Okay, so I'm going to be dividing it by 2, and then I'll be marking 8 inches on one side and 8 inches on the other side. Okay, just from the point where I marked 8 inches from the other side, I'm going to start from there to measure my 19 inches, and then I'll mark it, and then my measurements will be at the center. So guys, I just really hope you're understanding what I am saying here. Okay, then I'll come over to the waistline. I'll do the same thing. So I measured my waistline, which is 16 inches, so I'll mark it down. Then from the waistline, I'll also do the same thing I did at the bust line. So I'm going to measure what I have from one side to the other side. So my waist measurement is 30 inches, which is 15 when you divide it by 2. So from the 15 point again, I'm going to count what I have left. So I have I just have 18 inches, so I'm going to be dividing it by 2, which is 9 inches on each side. So I'll mark 9 inches on one side again, and then I'll also measure from the 9 inches, then I'll mark it, and then I'll connect it just the same way I did it at the bust line. Okay, just look at what I'm doing. I'll also go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. I'll draw out my shape, then I'll take it to my sewing machine and sew it exactly the way I drew the shape. So guys, I'm done sewing it out, and this is what I have. So I connected the measurement to the hip line. As you can see earlier, I then stitched on it. So you can see I've also folded my hemline by 2 inches. So guys, that will be all for this tutorial. If you like it guys, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.